Merry Christmas, you're kicked off of YouTube. By the way, just in case you were wondering, the last 5 minutes alone, we just got banned.
Easy.
We probably got a strike.
It wouldn't be the last show of the year if we didn't vent about...
Stop it. Welcome to the Naked Apple. This will be our last episode of 2022. Thank heavens. We can throw this year in the trash bag it belongs in and start filling up a new trash bag.
Add it to the dumpster fire.
Yes.
Things will get better next year.
See, people started that. And
we all know what assuming does.
Yes.
It makes an ass of you.
And me.
And mostly you.
And mostly you. Yes. Ever since about 2015 or so, every consecutive year has answered the call of it can't get any worse with hold my beer.
Yeah. I remember 2020, that was the year that everyone was in consensus that it was the worst year ever. And then as the year was coming to a close, I was like, hey, you guys, I know that 2020 is coming to an end and everything, but is it? May I remind you that in the lens of history, this entire decade will be known as the 2020s. And that made people mad at me.
I would postulate that at some point in the future, it's going to be known as the terrible 20s. As opposed to the roaring 20s, which were the 1920s.
And the irony is it could have been the roaring 20s.
I'm sorry, but you...
Hey, I would settle for the boring 20s.
Well, yeah, there was a great economic collapse that happened. Yeah, it had to happen because it was all a lie, kind of like now in the 20s, where it's all a lie.
The cake is a lie.
Yeah. So with all those lies, and more lies and lies upon lies and lies about lies, I think we need to indulge in our weekly dose and the final dose for the year of our vitamin B.
Vitamin B time. Mm-hmm. There we go.
You have to help out all the vitamins. And now my nose is orange.
Shoot it, put it out of its misery.
My skin is red. Elmo doesn't like it.
Welcome to your vitamin B.
Your Tickle Me Elmo seems to have escaped. I almost got him.
Giggity. Speaking of people escaping, Bruce Wayne polls Arkham inmates asking if he should step down as Batman.
And what was the results? Was it?
57.5% yes to 42.5% no.
That's a very specific number.
Yes. Speaking of specific numbers, Musk hides 5 golden tickets in Teslas to find one worthy of taking over Twitter.
I greet you warmly by the hand.
All in line with these vaguely veiled references to Elon Musk. Hate speech against African Americans up 10,000% on Twitter.
That's a thinking man's joke right there.
Isn't it, though?
Elon Musk is African American, for those that didn't understand the joke.
Yes.
More so than LeBron James is.
In a daring twist, Elon to stay as Twitter CEO after counting the mail-in votes.
Ah, yes, those always come in a little
They
late.
come in a little late
They gotta,
every time.
what is it? They gotta cure the votes.
Yes.
They need time to cure.
And the FBI has decided finally to release all of the JFK documents, except for the one that says that they killed him.
Why is page 52 missing? There isn't a page 52. Why do you number it 51, 53? There is no page 52.
Speaking of the FBI, ex-Twitter employee scores new job working for the FBI. Due to past experience working for the FBI.
That does help a little bit. Less training.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's hilarious once you get past the tragedy of it.
Isn't it, though? Congress warns of government shutdown if we don't fund Ukraine by Friday.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Sounds good to me.
And
Yes. We have a special segment for you today. 2 of them, actually. We have, first off, our top 10 candidates to replace Elon Musk as CEO of Twitter.
ooh,
Number 1, an unpaid intern with Neuralink installed. Number 2 is Al Gore.
you know, I invented the internet.
Number 3, the Twitter mob.
The Twitter mob.
Number 4, hot new Italian CEO Peragio Agrawal.
Go on.
Yes. Number 5, Bob LinkedIn. Number 6, whoever can remove Elon's phone from the stone. Number 7 is all 37 of his kids. Number 8, Wikipedia founder Jimmy Wales. Number 9, a fully self-driving Tesla.
I mean,
And last but not least, definitely not least, God.
yeah,
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 yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the most godly sense of the word.
With Christmas right around the corner, we have for you this wonderful, wonderful Tuesday that you're hearing about on a Thursday,
Right before Christmas.
right before Christmas.
Most likely after Christmas.
A list of the 9 all-time greatest moments in Christmas movies.
Ooh.
Yes. Number 1 on our list, the time when John McClane throws a terrorist out the window onto a police car and says, "Welcome to the party, pal." Yes. Yes.
I was going to be mad if there wasn't a reference to that in the list.
Yes. Number 2, that part where John McClane puts a Santa hat on that dead German terrorist and sends him down the elevator. I have a machine gun, ho ho ho. Number 3, when John McClane has to cross all that broken glass without his shoes on, there is nothing we can do about it. So he just walks on the broken glass with his bare feet, like a badass.
This is a Christmas movie. Change your mind.
Yes. Number 4, when Snape falls off Nakatomi Plaza. It's great on so many levels. Descending, all of them. The credits that come up and say, Die Hard, at the end of the movie. It's number 5. Number 6, the time toward the end when the FBI comes in and screws everything up. Because they suck so bad.
Yeah,
Number 7,
They actually were telling the truth the whole time.
the whole time. Number 7, John McClane jumping off the building while it explodes behind him. He's tied to a friggin' fire hose. Yes.
Yes.
Just yes.
All the yes.
Number 8, That time John saves his wife from plummeting to her death by unhooking the watch given to her by her coke-addled, now deceased coworker. They don't make Christmas movies like they used to.
No.
And finally, number 9, that scene where Will Ferrell fights Peter Dinklage and Elf was pretty great, I guess. This has been your Vitamin B. I don't think that last one was nearly as good as that time that John McClane shot a bad guy with a gun that was taped to his back with wrapping tape. Though.
It's more like an honorable mention.
I think.
Yeah.
I think we just put that one in there so that not all 9 were straight from Die Hard.
It is supposed to be a comprehensive list of sorts, so yes.
It is, yeah. It is a comprehensive list.
Comprehensive Die Hard. The greatest
Christmas. It was a Christmas movie.
The greatest Christmas movie ever made.
Greatest Christmas movie ever made.
Is this a bad time to say?
It has more Christmas trees in it per capita than any other Christmas film ever created.
Capita.
It is a Christmas movie. Change your mind.
Is this a bad time to admit that I've never seen it?
Yes, it's a terrible time to admit
Yeah,
you've never seen it.
That's something, an inside voice. That's what that is.
It's been on my list. Not a big movie watcher.
Well, pardon me, young man. Excuse the shit out of my goddamn French, but did you just threaten me?
You take that back. I haven't seen it before. You take that back.
You take that back.
But how?
I own the collector's edition Blu-ray if you want to borrow it. For all of them. But the Christmas one is the best one.
To sit
There's
down
more
and
than one?
sit down and watch with your wife.
No, I
In this
have
Christmas
actually
season.
been wanting
To quote
watch
my
that.
other favorite holiday movie, Zombieland. I've never punched a kid before.
No, I swear, I've been meaning to watch them. Just this year, I'm going to have to convince my wife to watch Die Hard instead of It's a Wonderful Life.
That shouldn't be a hard sell.
Really, you just put it in and start watching.
All right, I'll
is
watch
this?
it even
Christmas
if I have
movie.
to do it by myself.
Christmas movie. It's fun.
Yes, it is. It had a feel-good ending.
Where's the Christmas? Right there. There's a wreath.
There's a
Christmas
wreath.
tree.
There's Christmas tree.
Christmas party.
The family is together for Christmas.
It's a Christmas movie. It's more Christmas movie than
There's a Christmas song in there somewhere.
It's more of a Christmas movie than Hallmark puts out anymore. They just copy paste the same thing over and over again.
I heard
My
recently.
wife is not going to like that.
I heard recently that Hallmark scientists say that they are this close to coming up with a second plot to put in their movies.
The breakthrough you didn't know you've been waiting for.
I can't say I don't think I've ever seen a full Hallmark movie either.
And bless you for that.
Not a big movie watcher.
That mildly redeems you from Die Hard.
Mildly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, on a more serious note, we need to find some sort of soundbite of us being right. Or told you so, or something.
I informed you thusly. That's a Big Bang Theory quote.
I have informed you thusly. Yeah. Because the Twitter Files Part 7 has been released. Yesterday, I think it was.
I think we only covered the first
5.
one. Oh, we did cover the other ones?
I don't know.
I have a question real quick.
I have an answer.
Wasn't the election in Arizona certified?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have an article to send you.
All right, let's check it out.
In the meantime, in the Twitter Files Part 7, Internal files from Twitter show that the FBI paid Twitter nearly $3.5 million as compensation between October 2019 and February 2021, as compensation for the time its employees spent managing their requests, according to internal documents published by author Michael Schellenberger on Monday as part of the ongoing Twitter files. After the Hunter Biden laptop story broke, a member of the FBI's Office of the General Counsel spoke with Twitter's then Deputy General Counsel Jim Baker, a former FBI agent, in a private call, Schellenberger reported. Obviously, our work with the FBI is close hold and we will never get public credit, but I would like to thank our FBI counterparts who worked so well with us this election cycle, wrote an unidentified Twitter employee, asking others to sign a thank you letter to the FBI in December 2020. So your tax dollars were allocated via Congress in an omnibus bill, which they just passed another, to the FBI, so that the FBI could then use the tax dollars to pay a private company, Twitter, to censor the speech that the FBI did not want to be on Twitter.
You know, I don't think I have the emotional capacity to, express my shock and awe at this, but that's like blatantly violating the First Amendment.
Only
the government agency is shutting down free speech.
Only blatantly. It's only exactly fascism.
So explain to me who's going to jail? When are the jails going to be full of?
Well, as soon
whoever
as
was in charge
that
of
red
this?
wave plows through and we have control of the House, the Senate, and the presidency, then we'll get to the bottom of it.
All right, I've heard enough. Deadly force authorized.
Yeah.
No, but isn't that like constitutionally speaking? Isn't that an impeachable offense?
Uh-huh.
Like even if you assume that Joe Biden had nothing to do with it, it is his now that this is out in the open, it is his duty as the head of the executive to enforce the law and uphold the Constitution by firing and holding accountable the people at the FBI that were responsible for shutting down free speech.
Yeah, you start at the top and just start working your way down.
Yeah, so that is Joe Biden's job, and if he fails to do that, he is therefore not upholding the Constitution, an oath that he swore to take, and this is like up there in the list of priorities, because the First Amendment, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's up there.
Yeah.
That's probably why they call it the First Amendment, and that's blatantly being violated by a government agency that he is in charge of.
Directly in charge of.
Yeah.
In an email with a subject line, "Run the business, we made money," an employee whose name was redacted reports to then... I wish they didn't redact it. I wish they just... At this point, you got to protect their privacy. No.
Oh, and it was specifically censoring the Hunter Biden laptop story.
And... yeah.
Oh, well, no wonder Joe Biden isn't interested in enforcing it.
Yeah. The general paid nearly $3.5 between October and February. Schellenberger Baker, a former FBI agent, was the agency's general counsel during Operation Crossfire Hurricane and approved the surveillance of former Trump campaign aide Carter Page via improper use of the Steele dossier, according to a report by the Justice Department Inspector General. So this same stupid guy is everywhere doing all this. Gosh dang it. Everywhere. They're in the walls, man.
They're coming out of the walls, man.
They freaking fly. Yeah.
That was two different movies.
It was.
One of those has one of the original female action stars in it.
That got her role after...
Katniss Everdeen.
yes.
Wait. No.
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 The FBI's influence campaign may have been helped by the fact that it was paying Twitter millions of dollars for its staff time. I am happy to report we have collected $3,415,323 since October 2019, reports an associate of Jim Baker in early 2021. So they probably even got more than that.
Jeez. $3,415,323.
As of this email in February. So that's where they get the number between those two dates.
Good heavens.
So I'm sure the FBI stopped the money in February
2021.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure the money stopped. Oh, I hope he starts releasing financial records of Twitter now.
That'd be beautiful.
Kind of hard to do that if he's not the CEO anymore.
He's still the owner.
Yeah, so that's.
I still think the ultimate troll would be like putting Alex Jones or something like that in.
Jared Kushner.
Just give it to Trump. Just give it to Trump and watch it burn.
Burn is the correct word, yes.
Good night. And you try to point this out to your left-leaning friends, and, well, that's just a conspiracy. It's made up. Blah, blah, blah.
It's right there.
Next, you're going to tell...
confirmed.
Next, you're going to tell me that the government confirmed UFOs exist. They did.
I really don't understand how we're confirming conspiracy theory after conspiracy theory, and then when we get to another thing that our leftist friends don't believe, they're like, oh, it's just a conspiracy theory. Like, how many of these do we have to confirm? Even the conspiracy theories that we confirmed, they don't believe.
And then on top of that, with some of the people responding to these things, Elon Musk responded to them, and Twitter isn't the only one that got paid.
Yeah.
So
I have little doubt of that.
He's got info on others getting paid.
Let's be honest here. Twitter is probably the smallest of the big social media groups.
Yeah.
So if Twitter made $3.5 million in, let's see, what is that? October, November, December, January, February, roughly 5 months. If Twitter made $3.5 million in roughly 5 months. 17? Oh, yeah, there was a year there.
Yes.
Yeah, so 17 months. In roughly 17 months, how much did Facebook get paid to do the same shit?
The same Facebook that helped fortify the 2020 election with the Zuck bucks.
How much is Facebook worth? Is that something we can look up easily?
Probably.
Yeah,
2.8 billion.
It's a public company.
Or no, not that.
Trillion? 2.8 trillion?
No.
That seems a bit high.
124.879 billion.
Okay. So
For
really
quarter,
only twice the size of Twitter?
well, quarter
based off
four,
of the
quarter four of
acquisition?
2021.
Was that revenue maybe?
That was net worth as of quarter four 2021. Is what I'm saying.
That's not quite the same thing as valuation, though.
No, it's not, but on the fly, that's what
Oh
I
my
got.
gosh. 1.7 trillion is currently trending on Twitter. Like, it's the number one trending thing.
What's
Because
1.7 trillion is the
omnibus?
the omnibus thing that was just passed?
the omnibus, which includes reforms to the Electoral Count Act.
What?
Yes.
Why?
Oh, they're changing the rules of our elections again.
Yes.
Oh, yay. This isn't tyranny.
They're doing it to your face.
$1.7 trillion in spending, and they're changing our election process.
Fox News has called the 2024 election for the Democrats.
If you're not going to get it right, at least get it first.
I am so glad I believe in
4,155 pages, $1.7 trillion, and $45 billion in Ukraine aid.
Hold on. Here's your litmus test for whether or not your politician needs to stay in office. It was how many pages?
4,155 pages.
It was dropped off on their desk 2 days ago.
Thomas Massey voted no on it.
Good.
And then he posted that this is actually Thomas Massey's post. 4,155 pages, $1.7 trillion, $45 billion for Ukraine, plus unrelated laws
That's
passed in an omnibus
And
bill.
that's just a handful of things he could find in the time allotted him to read through 4,000 whatever pages.
If you support one bill once a year that funds everything, don't tell me you defend democracy.
Amen to that.
Yeah, written behind closed doors by a few insiders with insufficient time to read before voting.
Yeah.
4,000 pages. That's unbelievable. No one, like, you can't read that kind of stuff even with a TV.
Oh,
No.
so Elon did a poll. Should Congress pass the $1.7 trillion omnibus spending bill? Currently, with 1,251,000 votes, 75.9% no.
Oh, good thing they listened to their freaking constituents.
Yeah.
And like Mike Lee said in his statement after the fact, you could tell he was pissed. He doesn't display much emotion, but you can tell when he's pissed. And he was not happy with that. Just, you can't call yourself, at least pretend to be fiscally conservative.
Seriously though, anybody that votes for this bill needs to be voted out immediately.
Yeah. And he's just should be on the steps of your Capitol demanding that they be removed as senator and have a new senator put in place. A new House member.
I love Rand Paul and Mike Lee took the entire 4,000 whatever page thing, put it on a table with a bunch of like toxic and like danger warning signs taped to it.
They are my favorite senators.
Yeah. Ever since the shutdown scares with Obama, Republicans have been frickin' spineless cowards on spending. Oh, if we don't pass this, the government's going to shut down. Then society will collapse.
Good.
Name one bad thing that happened during the Trump shutdowns.
Let's see.
Didn't he have like 3 shutdowns when he was president?
The government saved money.
Yeah.
Yeah, their big argument was it's going to shut down. It's going to shut down the government. Well, non-essential things would be shut down.
Good.
Okay, that raises a question.
Why do we have non-essential things?
Why are we funding non-essential things with the government? Seems like we can make some cuts.
No, the people that I talked to, like, all they cared about is, like, people that were hired to do these non-essential jobs wouldn't get their pay, and, like, I get that, but, like, these jobs shouldn't exist in the first place.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, you need a better argument than that.
Totally sidetracked us there, but
Worth it.
there you go.
What were we talking about?
The FBI.
Oh, yeah, the FBI.
The FBI is spending ridiculous amounts of money.
Speaking of spending ridiculous amounts of money.
Yeah. It's okay. I'm sure they got their cut of that $1.7 trillion to use however they've been using it. I don't drink, but I understand.
At this point, if I started, I wouldn't be able to stop.
I understand the need. Arizona, Kari Lake actually has a slim chance.
Slim
chance.
How slim are we talking here?
2 out of 10.
So 1/5.
1/5. And of that 1/5, if I remember the details correctly, so she had 10 different lawsuit claims, election lawsuit claims. The judge is allowing 2 out of the 10. And of those 2, she's allowed to get 50 randomly selected ballots from different things to prove her case.
Randomly selected ballots?
Yeah, I guess her team gets to just go through and this one.
Okay.
If I'm understanding the details of it all correctly, for the sake of Arizona and that section of our nation's border and the influence it would have over Greg Abbott to actually mobilize his ass to do something.
Yeah. So I love the thing that I
I
sent
hope
you.
they find some sort of information.
The thing that I sent you earlier. So what I love about this is the journalists and different people's like weird attempts to mislead things. So I sent you an article earlier, and then I looked at the date on it. Because
I was going to say, because I just saw a headline that's opposite of what this says.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So what happened with that is there's literally a reporter who just tweeted like a few hours ago, breaking, and they attached this article to it. And this article is from December 2nd, and it's when Katie Hobbs tried to get their court case stopped, and there was a judge that was going to throw it out because he said there was no standing because the election results had not been certified.
But now they've been certified.
But since then, everything has now moved forward to this point where it's now, no, they're actually going to have a case, and they're actually going to have these different things, and there is actually a chance that she could win here. And they are posting old info like it's new info, and it's very misleading.
Extremely, because, the headline I saw was the AG's lawsuit is moving forward in the courts. So Kari Lake has her lawsuit that's moving forward. And the AG that was also running and coincidentally lost by a very slim margin, his is also going through to the next stage in the court battles. It has already gone further than all of the crap that went on with 2020.
Yeah.
So it went farther than the lawsuits that Trump had.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
By a ways.
By a long ways.
By a long ways.
Well, let's see how the courts figure out how to mess it up. Forgive my cynical views.
So Kari Lake tweeted out,
I agree.
breaking, our election case is going to trial. Katie Hobbs' attempt to have our case thrown out failed. She will have to take the stand and testify.
Ooh.
Buckle up, America. This is far from over.
And that was December 19th at 8:03 p.m.
That means she'll have to explain how she was in charge of the election that she was on the ballot for.
And she'll have to explain why there was no need for her to recuse herself from her duties in order for that to occur.
That'll be interesting.
But it all hinges on Kari Lake in those ballots finding enough evidence within those selections of random ballots to prove that there is something there that should not have been there.
Yeah. Well,
How many ballots is she allowed to look at?
Whether or not they find anything really damning is going to depend on whether or not they're allowed to whittle down the pool first. If they have to randomly select out of the entirety of votes,
no, I think it focuses more so on Maricopa County.
I see.
And I think it's certain things of Maricopa County, they're allowed to randomly select ballots from those. So it's not just 50 ballots out of the whole thing. It's 50 ballots out of this, 50 ballots out of that. 50 ballots.
I see.
It's something like that.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
See, if that's the case, then they might find some pretty damning evidence.
I still don't understand. Like, going back to the 2020 shenanigans for a second here, like, I know I read that the number of signature rejections in 2020 was like ridiculously low compared to 2016.
Oh, yeah.
They basically weren't doing it anymore.
Super slim, yeah.
And so, like, no one has explained to me, like, why that's okay. But they ended up dismissing it and like, oh, yeah, this is just how we do it now.
Yeah, it's okay because it's also okay to just board up the windows and prevent poll
so
watchers from watching.
if they can justify that sort of stuff somehow and still have, more than half the country believe that 2020 was legit, then how are they not just going to find proof and then they're like, we found proof? No, you didn't.
Your Honor, I object.
And why is that, Mr. Reed?
Because it's devastating to my case.
Overruled.
Good call.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's basically focuses on the machines not working. So she has to use these ballots to somehow show that the machines not working at the different things did disenfranchise voters from actually being able to vote. And then also
the nice thing about this is,
and also the chain of chain of custody.
The nice thing about this is she doesn't actually have to prove that they stole the election. She doesn't have to prove that there's enough fraud for it to be completely swung. All she has to prove, at least the way that a lot of this stuff that I'm looking at is worded, all she has to prove is that there was enough percentage of voters that were disenfranchised.
Yeah. And it's not a lot. It's
I mean, we probably
10,000
won't
votes.
be able to get into the weeds here, but I don't understand how you would be able to prove that.
12,000 votes.
Well, really easily. If you're looking at something like the for instance, the voting machines, because the voting machines were down in, what was the final percentage that they gave of the actual percentage of machines that were down on election day? 67%.
60 is the final thing I saw. But
Yeah, I know it was in the 60s.
Yeah, it's something like that. First it was like 20%, then it was 50%.
Yeah, and then it was in the 60s.
Okay, yeah, it's basically a total system collapse, but it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, and then there's so
they were
so
turning
you have
voters
that
away.
Yeah,
because the machine
exactly
didn't work.
And that's provable. You can prove that, and that alone, you could find enough evidence amongst that to prove that a percentage of voters were disenfranchised by the way it was handled.
Doing something like,
But still, like they could just say like, oh well, they had the opportunity to go to some other location which was also having issues, and so a lot of people were just going to go home.
But that's the thing is
more importantly, they were going to go to work. Because they can't stand around for 2 hours waiting for a machine to work when they have to be at work.
Yeah.
But and the argument there is, well, yeah, but you could say that for hours and hours and hours and hours. But at some point during the day, there were people that were turned away right before the poll closed and did not have the option to go somewhere else.
Yes.
And they were disenfranchised.
Yes.
So regardless of if you have that argument earlier in the day, which is a bullshit argument anyway, because just because they can go to a different poll doesn't mean they have time to, or that they actually can. Because there was literally a story of an old lady who had she was handicapped, and she went to the polling station closest to her house and couldn't vote. And so she couldn't vote because she couldn't make it to a different polling station.
Right.
And those are things that actually happened, and they're provable.
Yeah.
They're documented. They have affidavits. They have all these different things. And so now, if they go through these votes and they
even
find,
said she's got whistleblowers from inside the stuff.
Fantastic.
So now
that's good news.
If they go through these votes and they can find even a small percentage of them that show that there were some voters that were disenfranchised, that's all she needs to prove, is that there were some voters that were disenfranchised.
Yep.
And then it becomes we have to re-vote because this was handled poorly.
Right.
Because everyone should have the ability to vote. Everybody should be given the opportunity. That's the direction they're approaching it from in this, which is a much better direction than just coming out and calling outright fraud.
Release the Kraken.
Well, I just want to draw a parallel here. My position on voter fraud is that a lot of this stuff we can't prove in a court of law. We have our suspicions. We're looking at parallels and such.
You can't prove intent.
Yeah.
But you can prove that things were handled incorrectly.
You can only prove
and
intent if you stumble across communications where they're saying to each other, make sure this happens so that we win.
Oh, shoot. I just lost my computer.
This is a bright flash and then nothing.
But that's the thing, and that's the reason why so many of these other attempts at this have failed is because they try to prove intent. They try to say that they did it on purpose.
Yeah.
They need to approach it from the angle of it doesn't matter if they did it on purpose or not. This is what happened. We have these votes that were tallied incorrectly. We have these affidavits of people that weren't allowed to vote because things were broken. We have these affidavits of people that voted this way, but it shows in the record that they voted a different way. That is provable. That's hard evidence. Mm-hmm. And so if you take that hard evidence and you don't try to prove intent, and all you're trying to prove is that it was mishandled and that there needs to be a revote, you can win.
Did the affidavits just come from citizens? Like, is it just a random citizen that said, hey, I wanted to vote, but the line was too long and I had to go to work?
No, there's tons of affidavits from poll watchers. There's from election workers. There are private citizens that signed affidavits. There's all kinds of them. They have a wide variety of them.
Yeah, it looks like from what we've been able to see that they took their time actually compiling.
For everybody that says that an affidavit doesn't mean anything,
proof.
Yes.
Yeah, for anybody that says that an affidavit doesn't mean anything, you're wrong. Because when you sign an affidavit stating that something particular happened, if it's proven that it didn't happen,
you go to jail.
You go to jail for perjury.
Yeah.
So,
no, because like the parallel that I wanted to draw here is that the Twitter files, like, if Elon hadn't bought Twitter and just released it to the public for the sake of transparency, we would still have no idea that this happened. Like, we would have no idea that the FBI tried to interfere and shut down free speech using tax dollars. We would have no idea that they...
we would have no proof.
Yeah, no proof. That's what I'm saying.
You're right. Yeah.
Like, all of this stuff, and all of this is confirmed. We had our suspicions, but now it's confirmed. And I think the same thing is going to happen with voter fraud at some point. My opinion on voter fraud is that at some point, if they keep on doing this, we're going to have the proof. But the question is the law going to be interested in prosecuting? That's the biggest,
And I imagine with this, if they find whatever it is the judge decides that they need to find, if they cross whatever threshold he's got for them, I imagine that it will then go to a more full discovery of, okay, how deep does this actually go?
Yeah. And that's my hope with voter fraud, is that we will find the evidence eventually. Because if they keep doing it, it keeps having to be a bigger and bigger operation. And at some point, the whole thing is going to be blown wide open.
And to be clear, I'm not excited about this.
Yeah.
No.
I'm excited in the sense that there is a chance for some form of justice to occur. I'm not excited that this is where we're at as a country.
But I don't have any idea like how wide of a scale it is, like how many people are involved, how many votes are affected. I have no idea about that sort of stuff. It's just the way I look at it is I think there are shenanigans going on, and I think that Democrats have the means, motive, and opportunity to cheat, and so I think that they do. Can I prove that in a court of law? Well, not yet, but I do think that the voting system as it is, like, it's almost like you can't collect evidence to prove it, and somehow the burden of proof is on us. Like, I think it should be, hey, you changed the rules, and now there are these issues and vulnerabilities that have been opened up because you changed the rules, referring specifically to mail-in voting. And so explain to me how you're addressing these. When a person stuffs a ballot box full of ballots, how do you know he's voting for his family? Because in the 2,000 Mules rebuttal or whatever, they're like, oh, he's just voting for his family.
Yeah, you don't know that. How do you know? You don't know that.
You don't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That could be happening, but how do you know he's not...
And even then, that's only legal in a handful of states.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, the way I see it is, the anecdotal cases, the ones that are provable but are, supposedly no big deal because they wouldn't swing the election, every single one of those needs to be investigated, but I've seen no interest in investigating those. And sending people to jail.
It wouldn't have an effect on the election. Yeah, stealing a candy bar doesn't have an overall effect of the income of the company.
Yeah,
but you still stole something.
Yeah, it's like
from that company.
Saying you're not going to be prosecuted for stealing something because it didn't make their profit margins negative. It only is prosecutable if you make. No, that's not how it works.
That's not how it works.
Yes. Well, and it's the death by 1,000 cuts idea.
Yes.
Yes, stealing the candy bar might not really affect the company too much, but if you steal a candy bar and a soda and a dress and you steal 15 different things just because Each of those things might not affect the company. All of those things together probably will.
And then get a handful of friends to do it too.
Yes, exactly. And it's all about it's about scale and it's about spread. Yeah, maybe there wasn't enough ballot stuffing to affect the election. But you stack that on top of Twitter suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop.
Uh-huh.
Those two things together, just those two things, is probably more than enough to swing an election.
Well, just based off of the polling that they did after the fact with the Hunter Biden thing,
And
people that didn't know about it found out about it, said they would have changed their vote to not be Biden.
Yep. And
it would have been enough
that's only two of the things
percentage-wise to change the outcome.
That's only two of the things they did. Suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop, one. And people stuffing ballot boxes, two. That's it. That's two things.
What was the story where Biden like sexually harassed or something like that? Some
Tara Reid?
Tara Reid, yeah. That was also suppressed.
The fact that both of us knew that off the top of our heads.
Well, no, that was also suppressed.
Yep.
Yes, it was. Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that
funnily enough,
put a
it was
ding
right
on it.
after the Me Too movement. Like the Me Too movement went away.
Yeah, it got real
During
quiet
the
real quick once Joe Biden was
during
in
the
crosshair.
2020 election.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's so much more that they did. I mean, the false narrative of January 6th, the false narrative of 5 or 6 different things that they did throughout that time. And Times posted an entire article about how there was an entire group that was doing this.
Here's how we did it. Here's the names. Here's the companies. Here's how we did it.
They're it's an open secret that they did it. They're proud of the fact that they pulled it off.
When the secret combination is no longer a secret and is working openly in the public, you got some you got some issues.
Merry Christmas, you're kicked off of YouTube. By the way, just in case you were wondering, the last 5 minutes alone, we just got banned.
Easy.
We probably got a strike.
It wouldn't be the last show of the year if we didn't vent about voter fraud.
It wouldn't be the last show of the year if it wasn't our last show on YouTube ever.
Yeah, I didn't even try to put the last one on because I knew that was just...
All right. Are we going to vent
That's
about
just
more
gonna come
greatest hits? What's the latest on the vaccine, Trevor?
Oh, gosh.
Latest on the vaccine? Well, I was thinking before we did that, because it's related,
Okay.
a couple of things that you sent to us.
Ah, yes.
The North Carolina Supreme Court tossed out some voter ID laws.
Yeah. Let's
really?
see here. Let me pull that up.
Whatever for.
Yeah, so
Why?
it's an article, in North Carolina, which is a state that is mostly red. We've been able to hang on to it, but it's considered a swing state. Guess what? The North Carolina Supreme Court tosses out a state voter ID law. And the interesting part about this is they said that it was on the basis that the voter ID requirements had a, quote, racially discriminatory purpose against black voters.
Tell me why.
And then the other interesting part about this is, let's see. I can't find it quite in the article, but I'm just going to say that the Supreme Court, they said, even though it appears, equal for all parties, really it's racially charged against black people. And so do you know what that means? The Supreme Court is saying, oh, well, you see, even though it is a fair law, black people, you see, are less capable, and so we need
That
to
might
account
be
for
the
that.
most racist
That
ruling.
is literally what the Supreme
have
Court is
ever
saying.
seen.
That is the justification that they're saying. Is they are saying that it's a fair law, but you see, black people are less capable, and so therefore, again, that's not me saying it. I'm saying that that is what
what's
the
her
Supreme
name?
Court of North Carolina is saying.
Have you ever seen Amala on PragerU?
No, doesn't ring a bell.
She's funny. She's this little black girl with dread braids.
Oh, yeah.
She's freaking hilarious. I love her to death. She's so funny. But she does she did an entire segment on on black voter ID with like 2 or 3 other black people, and all of them were like she's like, "Do any of you not? Does anybody here not have an ID?" They were like, "No, I've had mine forever."
I know.
Like, this is the dumbest freaking argument ever made.
And
seriously,
still, urban white Karens buy into it hook, line, and sinker.
I don't understand how. Like, anybody that has any form of rational thought in their mind could look at that argument and be like, that makes no sense. Like,
and what you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Anyway, so again, they don't say that specifically, but they say that because it appears the law is impartial, really it's to disenfranchise black voters. And if you think about their reasoning as to why they think that, it's super duper racist. I was originally going to do unspin the news segment on it, just pointing out the irony or whatever, but I couldn't bring it. Like, I couldn't laugh at it.
I need a "that's racist" button. That's
racist.
That's racist.
So anyway, they just repealed. I mean, I don't know if it's actually going to go into effect. I know that there's kind of a process on this. I assume that it will.
I think they can recommend to appeal.
But the point is like, if we lose voter ID in North Carolina, I mean, this is my cynical view saying we're going to lose North Carolina.
You'll have Arizona all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, or Georgia.
And so again, I think they're just trying to make as many people vote as many times as they can in the system, so that it just rings up the numbers for the Democrats.
The funniest thing to me is the only people that voter ID would prevent from voting, because when you look at voter ID laws, the voter ID, the ideas that they allow is essentially any form of photo ID.
Yeah, Georgia.
If you have a form of photo ID that has your name on it
and your picture,
and it's a legal, legitimate photo ID, you can vote. And so there's literally nobody that it actually disenfranchises. There's nobody that can't get that kind of ID. They're free all over the place. You know, the only people that it could possibly stop from actually voting would be maybe illegal immigrants. Maybe. And even then, it would be a very small percentage of them.
Well, they shouldn't be voting because, they're not citizens.
Right, exactly.
And they're here, illegally, so they shouldn't be.
So they shouldn't be voting anyway.
Elections. Anyway, but can either of you think of another argument as to why they would say, "Oh no, it's an impartial law, but it's actually going against black people"? Why do they think that?
And why is that, Mr. Reed?
Because it's devastating to my case.
Overruled.
Good call.
Anyway,
that's the only other argument I can think of. It's devastating to my case.
Yeah, if this court wants to stay at all consistent, they will now take marriage up and get rid of marriage from the tax law, because marriage licenses were instituted because of racism. They didn't want black people to get married to white people.
There's that.
So let's go ahead and just, for consistency's sake.
That's why marriage licenses became a thing?
Yes. Wholly endorsed by Southern Democrats.
Oh my gosh.
Because they did not want...
So every time that I say I would prefer the government just not be involved in marriage at all...
Ta-da!
Ta-da! That's why
marriage licenses did not exist before.
Welcome to another episode of And Now You Know.
Or whatever.
That should be a segment we should do
every day.
That's a segment we should do.
What?
And Now You Know.
Should we do with what's his name? Harvey. Do it with his
Weinstein?
No. And now you know the rest of the story.
Paul
Harvey.
The Paul Harvey.
Yes.
And that's the rest of the story. I grew up listening to Paul Harvey.
Yes.
He was one of my favorites.
Okay, so let's see. Moving on here. Can I talk about the Utah flag?
Let's talk about the Utah flag.
Okay. I hate the new Utah flag. Have either of you been following this story?
I saw that my sister submitted one, and I asked myself, why? And then I was going to ask her why, and then I thought, no.
Okay. So just ranting for a little bit. This is not the biggest deal in the world, probably, because I just view things from a lens that any change we make leads to communism. But I am going to...
That's fair.
I am going to indulge this for a little bit. So they're changing the new Utah flag. The old flag had the state seal, which was adopted in 1896, the same year that Utah became a state.
Yep.
And then it was basically put on the flag in 1911. So the flag has been with us for well over 100 years, and they are changing it. Granted, you could make the argument that they're trying to do it respectfully because they still have the symbol of a beehive, which is still an old Utah symbol, which I appreciate. And
it's a callback to biblical things, but, whatever.
Yeah. And they have, like, mountains or whatever, but this is the problem, is when we remove the symbols that connect us to our ancestors, like, we are dismissing what our ancestors left behind.
So what you're trying to say is wait.
And Barack knows that we are going to have to make sacrifices. We are going to have to change our conversation. We're going to have to change our traditions, our history. We're going to have to move into a different place.
That's what you're saying?
Yeah. So, again, the best way I can say this is by removing what connects us, which is our history, you can basically replace it with whatever the current thing is. Which that gives us the idea that we are more wise and valuable, or wise and
inclusive even
than our ancestors.
Yeah.
And it disconnects us from what they left behind, including the values that they left behind for us. A few Facebook posts that I screenshotted, I think some of these explain it better than I can. So I believe this one is from a veteran talking about it. His name is Tamasi Mafishi. This is what he said in his Facebook post. He said, "This majestic flag was originally designed in 1896, the year the great state officially became a state. Then it was officially adopted in 1911 to represent it. It served our state through World War I, the Great Depression, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, a number of peacekeeping missions, Iraq and Afghanistan. It has flown at Pioneer Day, parades and rodeos from the beginning. It's flown countless 4th of July celebrations, hometown parades, and events. It's also been flying next to our most incredible United States flag through all this and more. Our so-called governor and his woke flag task force want to erase all of this. Screw them all. This flag will stay forever." So, in other words, this is the flag that we've always flown, and by simply dismissing it, we are dismissing that history that connects us to our ancestors.
So also with that, on that history part.
Yeah.
So battleships of the United States Navy, when we had battleships, were named after the different states, right?
Uh-huh.
There was a USS Utah.
Yeah.
USS Utah was at Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
It was hit by 2 torpedoes, which caused serious flooding. Utah quickly rolled over and sank. 58 men were killed. Every battleship that has a state for its name has that state's flag with it.
Mm-hmm.
So they are changing the flag that these men fought and died under because they want it to be something better, and others have gone and just raped it of what it is by putting rainbow crap on it.
It's a sacred symbol. And actually, the rainbow crap, let me get into that for a little bit. Daniel McKay, which I believe he is a state senator, I believe he deleted this tweet. And
I wonder why.
One of the people that was in charge of like designing this flag or was on the team or something like that. So he took the same flag and he basically made it gay, because that's what we do these days. We just gay all the things.
It's more than gay. It's all of the colors of trans and.
Yeah, they put all the gay pride flags like all over it, made it different colors. And this is what Daniel McKay said. He said, "Nice work, Riley J. Adamson. Flags have to be adaptable for many uses in this community, and it's great to see your adaptation and enthusiasm. Here are a couple other options your work has inspired." So in other words, he's like, oh yes, we intended to make this flag adaptable.
Yeah. Yeah, because you need to have a standard that isn't standard. Because that's what flags are. Flags are a standard. Mm-hmm. Every country has a flag. In medieval times, every army had a flag. They had the banners or whatever tied to their backs, so they knew, oh, there's my knight I'm supposed to follow over there. It's because it's a standard. The flag represents some sort of standard that everyone unites behind.
Yeah.
If you make it so it can stand for anything,
it stands for nothing.
It stands for nothing.
Yeah. Sorry, I took your...
No. You're good.
Okay, so that leads me to the last post before I get into my own personal rants that I really liked, that I think makes the case pretty well. This is from Save Utah's Flag. In my opinion, it's the best Facebook page that makes a consistent case as to why we should keep the old one. This is what he says. And by the way, he's replying to the tweet of the guy that
Daniel McKay
gayified the entire flag. So the Save Utah's Flag says, in response to gaying the flag, he said, "Once you remove the sanctity of our historic symbols, you open them up to constant change and revision according to whatever the prevailing current thing is at the time. Soon the symbols erode, and under the never-ending barrage of change, for no other reason than for the sake of change, mean nothing." So the symbols mean nothing.
Yes.
This is why every revolutionary moment in history, i.e. the Soviets, Red China, etc., begin by destroying the symbols of their past, because you must cut the ties of a people to their past identity. And if you are to mold them into something new, something modern, I have nothing against the state senator driving the state legislator behind this initiative, but I think the below post speaks volumes about the eventual path this push for transformative change of our state will lead to, something that one day we won't even recognize.
Yep.
So, point is, if we change the flag that is a sacred symbol of our history, and then we feel entitled to just change it for whatever, then why do we keep the other symbols? Why not rename the state? Why don't we name it, I don't know, Utah or something?
Right.
Put cute in the name. Cute-ta or something. I don't know.
Or let's have the legislature spend all their time and efforts to have the state have official genders.
Sure. Yeah, why not? Or why don't we just rename the United States the U.S. of Gay? Or
the U.S. of Gay.
Well, I mean, with the party that went on at the White House the other day,
yeah,
they would be in favor of it, I guarantee you. But the point is when we're reading in history books and saying, oh, the pioneers, they marched the plains and came to Utah. If we rename the state Utah or something, you know, they're like, oh, what are they talking about? This has no bearing to me. But because it's part of our history, that connects us to those people and to what they held sacred and dear. But by removing these sacred symbols, that like it feels like an offense to like change the original seal because it's so old, you know, and has so much history behind it. By replacing it with something else that is not so sacred, people are like, oh, let's make it gay. And it's disrespectful.
Very much so.
So anyway, I will say that apparently Mike Lee tweeted something affirming the new flag. And Mike Lee is my hero. So maybe I am blowing this out of proportion, and I just have the opinion that everything leads to communism. But my goodness, why are we doing this?
It's okay. It'll only cost Utah taxpayers millions of dollars to.
Well, I think
change it
someone told me that it was only like $500,000, which is still $500,000 too much.
So
but,
compensating for the government underestimating how much it would cost.
But, we didn't spend that much time on the omnibus bill, so.
Yeah. Well then, FDA.
Let me see here. Yes, let's go with FDA.
FDA.
The greatest hits of 2022.
They just released a study about the COVID vaccine because, that's what a good FDA does. It's research. Hey, how's this vaccine thing doing? In their study, they covered 17.4 million elderly Americans who received a total of 34.6 million vaccine doses between December 10th, 2020 and January 16th, 2020. So 2 doses, basically, January 16th, 2022. There we go. That's within a month. The study was published on December 1st by the journal Vaccine. In their study, there were 3 outcomes of interest: a lack of oxygen to the heart, a blood platelet disorder called immune thrombocytopenia.
Some of these conditions I can't even pronounce.
Yeah. And another type of clotting called intravascular coagulation. Initially raised red flags, researchers said. Oh, why? So, that all equates to basically pulmonary embolism, which is blood clotting in the lungs. And it met the initial threshold for a statistical signal and continued meeting the criteria after a more in-depth evaluation. So they found it initially, like, oh, this is probably bad. They dug into it. They found more of it. Oh, this is really bad. And so they opened it up to the whole thing. And like, oh, it's all over the place. The FDA said it is not going to take any actions on the result.
What a surprise.
Because they do not prove the vaccines cause any of the 4 outcomes. So a study specifically set up to find outcomes of things, finds outcomes of the things, and the FDA says, yeah, we're not doing anything about that. It's can't be proven.
The government agency whose task is to ensure that the drugs and things that you put in your body are safe for you to put in your body did a study where they proved that this drug is not safe for you to put in your body. And then their statement at the end of the study was, we strongly believe the potential benefits of COVID-19 vaccination outweigh the potential risks of COVID-19 infection, and cited no evidence in support of their belief, is what you're telling me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's almost like they're abusing the trust the public has put in them.
Almost like it's exactly that. Yeah.
And then they're surprised when that trust diminishes.
Dr. Peter McCullough told the Epoch Times that this new paper corroborates the concerns of doctors that the large uptick in blood clots, progression of atherosclerotic heart disease, and blood disorders is independently associated with COVID-19 vaccination. The writing's on the wall. And whatever, go get jabbed again.
No, thank you.
Yeah, it's only, and this is just the seniors, and that's maybe why. Well, they're elderly. Oh, okay. Because the elderly are fine with having increased risks of lack of oxygen to the heart, or an increased risk of blood. They can handle an increased risk of that. The elderly can. How to say you're in a death cult without saying you're in a death cult. Something that floated under the radar. Back in July, Joe Biden signed some papers that says that ships have to slow down so they don't hit the whales. So your supply chain issues are only going to get better because the ships are making sure they don't hit the whales by going slower. when they get closer to the U.S.
I'm sorry, this is a new regulation or what now?
Yeah, back in July, this occurred. Vessels off the East Coast must slow down more often to help save a vanishing species of whale from extinction, the federal government said. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration made the announcement via new proposed rules designed to prevent ships colliding with North Atlantic right whales. Vessel strikes and entanglement in fishing gear are the two biggest threats to the giant animals, which number less than 340 and are falling in population.
Okay. So I loved the whales as much as the next guy.
Right.
You know, they're majestic creatures. I would be super excited if I got to see one in person.
Who among us doesn't love going out on a tiny little boat to have a whale jump into the air, splash on you, and then sneeze all over you? Who doesn't enjoy?
I don't know. The last time I went to a Lizzo concert, I was a fan.
That was savage.
Oh.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Oh.
The cream always rises to the top.
That was your Christmas present from me.
Oh man, that's up there. Wow. That was the quippiest quip I've heard all year.
Wow. Off the top rope.
Wrong, wrong, wrong,
I don't know if I can get serious again.
That's it. That's the story.
Okay, hold on.
That's why we don't allow Lizzo to go swimming on San Francisco. She slows down all the ships.
Okay. So again, very compassionate to like the whales or whatever, but if you think about how much, ocean there is out there and how many whales there are, like what are the odds that these ships are going to collide with these whales in some kind of a like material? It doesn't make sense to me. Like
here's the odds. They have the odds. You ready for the odds?
Yes, I'd love to hear the odds.
Let's just say that in the course of a year, there's probably millions of ships that cross the Atlantic, right? Same ship going back and forth, but millions of crossings between the U.S. and the Atlantic, probably, I presume, each year, right? Is that fair?
Yeah.
All right. Between spring 1999 and spring 2018, NOAA records 50 whales were struck by ships.
And that's just struck. It's not like struck and killed.
Really? So wait, what is the date? Like, when did they do this reporting?
Spring of 1999 and spring of 2020. Between
20 years.
2018.
20 years.
Across 20 years.
Across 20 years.
Okay.
And millions and tens of millions of crossings. 50 whales were struck.
That's from NOAA.
That's from NOAA.
So that's an official source.
That's an official source.
Because I'm looking at a headline right now from April 30th, 2022, that says more than 20,000 whales are killed by ship strikes every year.
This is 50 of the endangered whales that they're talking. The right Atlantic, North Atlantic right whales. 50 of them across the course of 20 years were struck. So we need to slow down. It's not because of all the other whales. Screw the thousands of whales that died otherwise.
Specifically because of
this whale that apparently is too dumb to recognize it needs to go a little deeper when a giant metal ship is making tons of noise heading in its direction.
Well, again, it's also just like a sense of scale because, apparently these collisions on average happen once every 5 months? Not even.
Yeah.
And if you consider the number of shipping, ships.
Yeah, you got
cargo ships. That's the word I was looking for. Why do they call
shipping ships?
Stuff cargo and then the truck shipments Cargo. Anyway,
because you walk on a
shipments.
Because you walk on a sidewalk.
Makes
you
no
park
sense.
on a parkway, or you park on a driveway and drive on a parkway.
Anyway. So
yeah, I got it. I got it eventually.
Cargo ships. That's what I was looking for. Anyway, like the number of cargo ships that are involved and would be subject to this regulation versus the number of collisions that actually happen that are any danger to these animals, like just the scale of it does not make sense.
Yeah, it's the same kind of people that in California won't let people do stuff because a fish can't swim.
Do you know what I think? I think this is going to lead to communism.
Probably. So, of 11 species...
Keith's razor. It just leads to communism. It's just communism, bro.
So, of 11 species known to be hit by ships, fin whales are struck most frequently, and right humpback sperm and gray whales are hit commonly. Most lethal or severe injuries are caused by ships traveling 14 knots or faster. Today, collisions occur most often with high-speed ferries and racing yachts. In 2011, Fabian Ritter, collaborating with noonsite.com, published a study that consisted the first attempt to assess collisions involving sailing vessels and whales on a global scale. A total of 111 collisions and 57 near misses were identified between 1966 and 2010. The majority of which were, about 75% of them, were reported between 2002 and 2010. So 75% of 111 is like 80-ish. Rough math.
Yeah. Rounding.
Over the course of 8 years, so 10 a year.
With how many ship crossings every single year?
All the time. Like
spread over 11 different species. So there's one species that evaded a hit every year.
At least.
At least.
Oh yeah, that's another question is like what's the marginal benefit of this regulation?
Well, it'll help a whale species that apparently doesn't know how to reproduce all that well.
The pandas of the sea.
And also doesn't know how to avoid things that are moving in the water.
So just
saying.
I just picture these things like at some cliff, just kind of. I can't go. It's not moving. I don't understand why I'm not moving. As it's pushing against a cliff wall in the water.
Yes.
That's not very nice to the animals. I'm told that whales have superior hearing. That's what all the nature shows told me. Whales
and yet,
have amazing hearing.
They didn't hear that coming.
But when a ship comes driving by, much like a deer crossing the road, it just freezes.
So, have we covered how this law is intended to help? Like, what is this law going to do?
Well, by slowing down, it's make the collisions less lethal, I guess. Because, you know, it's slowing them down to 10 knots instead of 14.
I see.
Because, you know, the difference between 10 and 14 for a massive cargo ship is a big difference as far as amount of newtons exerted.
Right.
Force. However, I still feel like a full cargo ship traveling at any speed in the water,
if you think about the momentum,
it's going to hurt a lot.
Yeah.
Also, logistically, how exactly do you plan on enforcing?
Oh yeah,
this.
Yeah, because you'd have to have the Coast Guard just going up and down.
Well, not just that. Because these are international waters that this is happening in.
Yeah.
How the hell are you going to enforce that?
Yeah, they're trying to enforce it in the what's considered national
Isn't there
waters.
like a tariff thing that they can like? Anyway, I don't know.
But how are you going to catch people?
Yeah. Hey, slow down! You're going too fast. How do you know?
I'm on a boat.
I'm on a boat on the water, and you
take a good hard look at the mother effing boat.
Yeah. Yeah. Coast Guard isn't sitting there with a radar gun tracking how fast they're going, because you can't on the water. It's a good thing he focuses on things like this, Joe Biden and his administration, and not on less important things like, the, what was it, 40-something thousand immigrants crossing the border in 48 hours?
Yeah. So
in one location.
The point of this regulation, the reason this regulation, part of the reason why this regulation is getting pushed, is because the death of the right whales is putting a tremendous amount of pressure on the lobster industry.
Because there's going to be more lobsters to eat?
No, because environmentalists have been blaming lobster fisheries for the death of the right whales. And so the lobster fisheries have been forced to adjust.
Oh, so a special interest group is worried about this. And since they have all the correct social credit things, they have to get paid attention to, not the group that's actually creating jobs and stuff for people to live. Gotcha. Yeah, but the whales.
There used to be this thing that we believed in scientifically. What was the natural selection?
Oh, yeah, from one of their favorite scientist people that's not actually a scientist, but... Yeah.
I mean, I hate to be that guy, but maybe if they're going extinct, there's a reason.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Darwin kind of pushed that.
Maybe because they're too stupid to avoid boats.
Well, again, we have to ask, what is this law actually going to do? You can say that it's less lethal, but okay, show me the numbers.
So it
sounds like an arbitrary number that they're pulling out of a hat to say, oh, but it'll make us feel good. If these whales are going extinct, we can agree that that's tragic or whatever, but is destroying our entire supply chain infrastructure for the sake of maybe saving some whales that are on the way out anyway. What did we do exactly?
What it's actually going to do is, like you said, it's going to make the environmentalists shut up about it so they can go focus on something else, and then they'll make a law about that to make them shut up about it and move on to something else. What I find funny, though, is one of the links in this article that it's got for me. New species of killer whale discovered.
Evolution.
Let's just pretend we don't understand everything that goes on in the world and move on with our lives.
Yep.
So in the spirit of Christmas...
Sounds like just a feel-good...
It is.
Law that just inconveniences everyone's lives.
So they can satisfy their constituents to give them more money.
And to make the environmentalists shut up.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Sorry, move on. Let's hear that transition.
So, in the spirit of Christmas, I thought I'd leave you with a historical story. General Patton, probably the greatest general in modern history, arguably. He was the general of the 3rd Army, Battle of the Bulge, 1944. It was getting a little hard for the U.S. Army there because they were supposed to get up and reinforce the line, but they were unable to because they met the Germans in the middle of winter. Well, the beginning of winter is almost Christmas. And they weren't making any headway because they could not get air support. General Patton could not get air support. The reason why he could not get air support is because it was storming day after day after day after day. Troops were starting to freeze. Their clothes weren't working well. Ammunition, rations, all that stuff wasn't working out so well for them. General Patton calls up his... the father, the... Gosh dang it, what's his name?
The father?
Father James O'Neill. the chaplain for the Third Army, calls him up to his office, and he says, he asks him, "Do our soldiers pray?" And chaplain says, "Well, of course. That's why we have a chaplain." Is it? No. Do our soldiers pray? And Patton's just staring out the window of his office, talking to the chaplain behind him. And, well, yeah, they're God fearing. They pray. We're in a war. There's no atheist in a foxhole here. And General Patton said, "I need our soldiers to be praying. They need to pray." And he said, "Father, do you have a prayer for weather?" The father looked through his things, says, "No, I don't have a prayer for weather. But I'll make one. I can make one." So the father made a prayer for weather, and General Patton put it on a Christmas card with his own words and sent it out to every member of the Third Army. This, maybe, if I can operate correctly. This was the prayer. There we go.
That is some nice parchment.
Yes. It's not showing up on that very well. And now I've ruined it. Oh no. Oh no. But I'm trying to get this to show up on this. There we go. The prayer says, "Almighty and most merciful Father, we humbly beseech thee of thy great goodness to restrain these immoderate rains with which we have had to contend. Grant us fair weather for battle. Graciously hearken to us as soldiers who call thee, that, armed with thy power, we may advance from victory to victory and crush the opposition and wickedness of our enemies and establish thy justice among men and nations. Amen." And the words from Patton to his army: "To each officer and soldier in the 3rd United States Army, I wish a Merry Christmas. I have full confidence in your courage, devotion to duty, and skill in battle. We march in our might to complete victory. May God's blessings rest upon each of you on this Christmas day." The next day, bright sunny skies, Air Force came in, gave the air support that was needed. They moved on, pushed back the bulge, and went on to crush the German forces.
A general encouraging his soldiers to pray, nay, commanding them.
Yes.
That's very inspiring. And I have to also comment on just the elegant language of the prayer itself. Like, we don't pray like that anymore.
No. Especially as a whole.
Like that's amazing. Like that makes me want to like go out and like study prayers of like the more hardcore religious ancestors that we had and pray like them. That would be freaking awesome.
And one thing I thought was interesting about this prayer is it's asking for fair weather, but he says, "Grant us fair weather for battle." He's not saying, like, have the war end or whatever. We're going to fight. Can we please have some clear skies to help us march to victory and bring justice, your justice, to the enemy? He was getting his troops to be on God's side.
Yeah.
He wasn't trying to get God on their side, because you can't. You're either on God's side or you're not.
Yeah.
And Patton and his chaplain recognized that. Oh. Yes?
Was that an epiphany?
I just found something really interesting.
All right, let's finish up this story, then we can move on to that.
So yeah, and this is like World War II is where all of this stuff starts to fade away.
Yeah.
Because after World War II, we go to Vietnam.
Yeah.
And then we find out we should have never gone to Vietnam.
Oh, no, never.
And that's probably why, and that's part of what led to MacArthur being released as general, because MacArthur was still of the mindset from World War II, where, hey, if we're at war, let's go ahead and actually do a war and end it right now because we can. No, we can't have you here. You're a little crazy with your things. And granted, he wanted to nuke part of Vietnam, but but yeah, I just thought that was a good little historical tidbit, Christmassy related, for seeing that we are in the Christmas season. A good reminder that we need to right ourselves with God so that we can bring his justice, bring his will, bring all those things, his power, from victory to victory.
Yeah, reconciling ourselves with God. That is a very empowering message, and it's what Christ came here to do.
A lot of things would be fixed if we did so. Real quick. Almost instantaneously, kind of like it was with that prayer.
Yep.
You found something, Mike.
I did. I sent it to the email.
You sent it to
All right, let's check it out.
And I found it because of this, what we were just talking about, because it was one of Western Journal's side articles here.
Oh.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Utah man's 2020 election case quietly makes it to the Supreme Court. Biden, Harris, and 385 lawmakers are named.
Oh, yeah, this is one I talked about a couple weeks ago. I just didn't have an article for it.
Yeah. So this was published this morning. So we mentioned it a couple weeks ago, but it is officially now on the Supreme Court docket, and it's scheduled for a hearing.
Holy crap.
On January 6th.
Holy crap. Yeah, because when I found this, it was the Supreme Court was just going to do a tertiary vote to see, yeah, we'll take it or no, we won't. Basically.
Apparently, according to this article...
so he's suing the lawmakers that certified the election.
Yes, he is.
Interesting.
In a commentary last week, Tim Canova, a constitutional law scholar and professor at Nova Southeastern University Shepherd Broad College of Law in Florida, holy shit, that's a mouthful, said Supreme Court of the United States is considering the lawsuit to avert a constitutional crisis in light of recent revelations that the FBI had colluded with Twitter and Facebook to suppress negative news about Biden.
And they just got freaking documents yesterday about that.
And so there's proof now.
Wow.
The fact that Brunson, so this court case, by the way, for anybody wondering, the court case is Brunson v. Adams, and it will be on January 6th in the Supreme Court. The fact that the Brunson case has made it to the court's docket suggests profound concerns about a lawless January 6th congressional committee, politicized federal law enforcement and intelligence agencies, and major constitutional violations intended to overthrow an elected government by manipulating the outcome of the presidential election. Direct quote.
So
wow.
The standing on this is because the government agency, i.e. Twitter, was used to suppress information, basically suppress free speech. Mm-hmm. The election was therefore not fair because the federal government was, shall we say, colluding.
Mm-hmm. The federal government resorted to fascism.
To overturn the election, which, funnily enough...
To stop the democratic process.
Yeah.
So these quotes right here are from, like I said, from Tim Canova.
It doesn't allege the voter fraud stuff.
Right.
I see.
So I'm going to read a handful of quotes out of this. These are all from Tim Canova, who is, again, a constitutional law scholar and professor at Nova Southeastern, blah, 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 blah. I don't say blah, blah, blah. Anyway.
need to turn that into an acronym of some sort, my dude.
Seriously. This is such a long name. Why would I want to read all that? Anyway, Supreme Court justices may well see these approaching storm clouds and conclude that the court's intervention is necessary to prevent larger civil unrest resulting from constitutional violations that are undermining public trust and confidence in the outcomes of both the 2020 and 2022 elections.
Thank you.
The Brunson lawsuit does not claim the election was stolen, merely that a large majority of Congress, by failing to investigate such serious allegations of election rigging and breaches of national security, violated their oaths to protect and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, an oath also taken by Supreme Court justices and members of the U.S. military, and by 2 members of this podcast.
Yes.
Ouch, I feel attacked.
and someday possibly a 3rd.
We're working on him.
Yeah, working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
so at the very least, the fact that this has actually made it to the Supreme Court and is on the docket and is scheduled for a hearing,
so it means they're going to
huge,
giant. Yeah, because when I first saw it, I thought it was on the Supreme Court. Then I read the details, like, oh, they're gonna look at it and then decide if they'll take it. They're probably not gonna take it. Holy crap, they're taking it.
But they're taking it.
Yes, yeah, they are taking it, and so
that means that they have to issue a ruling. So if they say that it's illegitimate or whatever, they have to explain why.
Yes.
Right, and the other thing about this is in his closing remarks. In his Supreme Court review, Brunson said it was an act of treason for our leaders to not investigate the significant accusations of election fraud.
Yes, sir.
So
start
there's
using
now,
that word.
And still ongoing.
Yeah, and so even if this doesn't overturn the 2020 election, even if it doesn't lead to an emergency election or anything like that, this could push forward an investigation that could result in legal action against members of Congress and against the Biden family and against these other people if the Supreme Court does their job.
I am going to have to listen to that one.
Yeah. Well,
to hear those arguments, because part of what he's saying in his thing is the lawsuit seeks to remove Biden from the White House and restore Trump to the Oval Office. The Supreme Court will not say that's going to happen.
Right.
I can guarantee that. That much I know.
Yeah, I can guarantee that won't happen. But the evidence and things that have come to light recently, mixed with several of the things that they have in this case, could lead the Supreme Court to make a different ruling that would
kind of like
be good.
Kind of like the overturning Roe v. Wade.
Mm-hmm.
It was, if the Supreme Court just followed what they wanted in that case, it would just be 15-week ban or whatever, 15-week abortion ban. But the Supreme Court decided to go past that and say, it's not for us to decide. It's just up to the states.
Yeah.
And this one's kind of the inverse of that, where this is a very specific thing. The Supreme Court, I guess it's actually not the inverse. It's still kind of, the Supreme Court will step back most likely and take a more broad thing and say, yeah, moving forward, no, can't you, if serious things are brought up, Congress should investigate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the nice thing about the Supreme Court, the nice thing in this instance about the Supreme Court is that with the Supreme Court, it isn't just a guilty, not guilty verdict. It's not a criminal, technically, court.
They can recommend.
They can recommend
be taken.
criminal allegations and things like that. But because it isn't just a guilty, not guilty court, it isn't black and white in their end decision. They don't either just agree with, what the actual case is or not agree with it. They rule on the merit of the different things in the case and can come up with their own solution in it, essentially.
Yes.
Which is the fact that they're taking this case.
It's huge.
Is huge because that leaves a wide open area for them to do that in.
Uh-huh.
And if they do find that, treason is something that could be put on the docket for this.
I'm to that point in my beliefs. I've dug in so much that treason is now at my feet as I dig in further.
Merry treason season.
'Tis the season for treason.
That's my 4th of July. In Christmas, it's Jesus is the reason for the season, and the 4th of July is treason is the reason for the season.
I think I'm going to make a T-shirt out of that.
Happy Treason Day, you filthy peasants.
Oh, I'm literally making a shirt that has like an American flag with like maybe a little Santa sleigh or something. This is Merry Treason season. That's gonna be my new shirt
for the 4th of July.
4th of July, I love it.
It's Christmas in July.
Yes,
it's July 4th. Every year.
I believe it was Adams that did say the Christmas and Independence Day are indissolubly linked. The birthday of the nation and birthday of the Savior are indissolubly linked with each other.
Yeah, if only they actually had the correct birthday. There's that holiday.
Anyway, hopefully that last bit of good news brightens up your holiday season this Christmas or post-Christmas, whenever you listen to this. Yeah. Yep.
And hopefully that the Supreme Court rules in favor of forgiveness.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of forgiveness.
That's the sound of people drowning, Carl.
That is what forgiveness sounds like. Screaming and then silence.
So we will be gone the next couple of weeks due to
the holidays
and things and busyness and whatever.
Christmas, New Year's, January 6th.
It's now a holiday.
It's now a holiday.
It will be after that court hearing.
It's a bold strategy, Carl. Let's see if it pays off for
Exactly. Yeah, so we'll be back the week of the 10th, which is right after this hearing. Yep. We'll probably actually be starting off the new year with this.
Hopefully.
Yeah, and we got some stuff in the works that might be entertaining as well for the beginning of the next year.
Might be. Heavy might.
Might be. Heavy. Might being the operative word.
Yes.
But yeah, thanks for another great year. As great as it could be. Got to make the most of every dumpster fire you're thrown into. And don't forget to do all the liking, subscribing. Have a safe, happy, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year. We'll see you next year. Bye!
You did that on purpose.
What the hell is even that?
It's that button.
The button is red.
That means stop.
That means stop.
Pretty sure that's not what it means in this context.
Which is, counterintuitive considering that's what it means in every other context. So when I see something red, I'm supposed to stop. Stop sign, stop light, record button. No. The last one, green means stop.
Yes.
Red means
confusing.
Go.
Yes. Also, Spotify lets you put polls on your episodes.
Oh, did you poll one of our episodes?
Yes, the most recent one. I did a poll just to see how it would work.
Did we get answers?
How did we do?
With 100%.
So one vote.
I asked. There were 3 options. Do people actually look at and answer these polls? Yes, no, more hot mic segments. With 100% of the votes,
Going to number 3.
More hot mic segments.
How many? What? How many?
How many votes were there?
2.
Okay.
Was one of them you?
I can neither confirm nor deny that half of those were my votes.
Well, I mean, it's unanimous.
The people have spoken.
What about the other half? Was it your wife?
The people have spoken, Mike. That's
I feel like this election was rigged.
Hey, just because I was in charge of and could count all the votes and it was in something of my favor does not mean that I rigged the election.
You have no proof. The burden of proof is on you, Mike. No, you cannot collect the data. No, you cannot examine the results.
I took one out of
Just believe it, stupid.
Katie Hobbs and Joe Biden's playbook and just stayed in my basement.
My Lego Batman is hip thrusting at you.
It's the pelvic thrust.
Hey, Annie, are you okay?
Drive the doctor insane.
Let's do the time warp again and just not do that part.
Which part?
Yes. Singing the time warp.
Just gestured to all of me.
I just time warps the time warp. All right. I think we're ready.
Are you sure?
I'm down.
Down to clown.
Down with the sickness.
Wah, ah, ah, ah.